Have you ever felt it, that, that kind of mental static when you try to focus on just one thing? Or that twitchy, restless feeling the moment you put your phone down? Well, I'm here to tell you, it is not just you, and it's not just about being tired. There's something bigger going on, a quiet but very deliberate erosion of our ability to think deeply. And today, we're going to map out exactly how our minds are being rewired and, more importantly, what we can do to start reclaiming them.
Okay, so to really get this, we have to look at how we got here. Think about the 1970s. Media had a stop sign. A newspaper had a last page. A TV show ended, and that was it. Our minds had built-in brakes. Fast forward to the 90s, things got faster with 24-hour cable and the first PCs. But then, the 2010s hit, and with them, the smartphone. Suddenly, we had this infinite, algorithm-fueled universe right in our pockets, training us to be constantly reactive. And the projection for 2026? A state of almost total mental fragmentation, where deep, quiet thought becomes a rare luxury.
And here's the most important part. This didn't just happen. Not by a long shot. It's the result of what you could call an invisible war for our collective mind. Because in today's economy, our attention isn't just a resource. It's the most valuable currency there is.
So let's dive into the mechanics of this erosion, because this isn't just about feeling a little scattered. We're talking about real, physical changes that are happening inside our brains. The key concept we have to understand is neuroplasticity. Your brain isn't set in stone, it's more like clay, constantly being reshaped by what you do over and over again. So every time you endlessly scroll or flip between tabs or get pulled away by a notification, you are actively training your brain. You're literally reinforcing the pathways for distraction while the pathways for deep focus get weaker.
Just look at the difference here. When you do deep work, reading a book, focusing on one hard problem, you're strengthening your prefrontal cortex. Think of it like a muscle for focus. But when you're constantly switching, as the author Nicholas Carr warned us about years ago, you're training that muscle to do something else entirely, to scan, to jump, to react. And this makes your ability to hold on to a deep thought feel incredibly fragile.
And here's the kicker. This rewiring of our brains, it's not some unfortunate side effect. No, it's the intended outcome. It's the result of a very sophisticated system, an architecture designed from the ground up to fragment our attention.
This is the system that hijacks our attention. You've got infinite feeds, so there's never a natural reason to stop scrolling. You have variable reward mechanisms, the unpredictable likes, comments, and messages, which work exactly like a slot machine, hooking your brain on a dopamine loop. Push notifications keep our brains in a constant state of high alert. And then there's cognitive offloading, where we let our phones remember everything for us, which sounds great, but it actually weakens our own internal ability to build and retain knowledge.
And here's where you see the real cost. On one hand, you have single tasking. It's not just about being productive. It's like a workout for your brain that builds cognitive endurance and actually lowers stress. On the other hand, you have media multitasking, scrolling a feed while you're trying to work. It shatters your attention. In fact, research out of Stanford found that heavy media multitaskers perform worse on cognitive tests, even when they're not multitasking, which suggests these changes might be long-term.
Now this brings us to one of the most bizarre and frankly dangerous paradoxes of our age. We have access to more information than any other time in human history, but all this exposure might actually be making us less informed, creating this profound delusion of knowing things we don't actually understand.
Let's just track this through something simple, like news headlines. Back in the pre-digital era, headlines were usually pretty neutral, right? They were factual summaries. Their main job was just to inform you about what had happened.
Then, the 24-hour news cycle and the internet arrived. Suddenly, the game changed. Headlines had to get more sensational. They started focusing on conflict and drama just to cut through the noise.
And that leads us to today, the clickbait era. Now headlines are engineered to trigger a strong, immediate emotional reaction. The language is often frantic and absolute because the algorithms have figured out that emotions like anger and fear are what drive the most engagement.
This creates a huge gap. See, real knowledge is built slowly, through deep reading and thinking things through. But the illusion of knowledge comes from something called processing fluency. Basically, because it feels so easy to scroll through headlines and bite-sized news, our brain mistakes that feeling of familiarity for genuine understanding. The result? We get this inflated, totally unearned confidence, and we start forming really strong opinions before we've even begun to understand an issue.
So, what happens when a whole society starts running on this illusion? Well, the fallout isn't just personal, it's cultural. We start to see a widespread decay of our shared intellectual standards.
Almost a century ago, a philosopher named José Ortega y Gasset described this figure he called the mass man. It's basically someone who rejects expertise, who thinks their uninformed opinion is just as good as a specialist's and is perfectly happy with that. In a digital world where algorithms reward the loudest voices, not the most informed ones, this mindset is no longer a fringe idea. It's kind of becoming the default, a culture that is proud of its own mediocrity.
And when that attitude goes mainstream, our institutions start to get hollowed out from the inside. Quality becomes optional. Public debate stops being about finding truth and turns into an ego competition. And deep, nuanced thinking gets sacrificed at the altar of engagement.
This all sounds incredibly dark, I know, and it raises a really important question. Are we stuck with this? Is this cognitive and cultural decay a one-way street?
The answer is no, absolutely not. But the solution isn't just to take a passive digital detox for a weekend. It's about making an active, conscious choice to rebel against a culture that celebrates the superficial. It's a climb that takes real, deliberate effort.
And this might be the most important mindset shift of all. That feeling of restlessness, that anxiety you feel when you put your phone away and try to just read a book, that's not a sign that you're failing. It's a withdrawal symptom. It's actually a good sign. It means your brain is beginning the hard work of healing and rewiring itself back towards depth.
Okay, so how do we actually do this? Let's get practical. Let's talk about an actual evidence-based roadmap to start rebuilding these cognitive abilities.
And these aren't just nice ideas, they're backed by solid research. Just 20 minutes outside in nature can literally restore your ability to focus. Deliberately single-tasking helps rebuild that concentration muscle. Finding a non-digital hobby that gets you into a flow state, like playing music or reading a real book, retrains your brain for deep absorption. Practicing intentional silence gives your mind a chance to actually rest. And batching your emails and messages breaks that cycle of constant reactivity.
All right, this is where it all begins, right here. Here are 3 simple but incredibly powerful exercises you can start today. First, try reading a physical book for just 20 minutes with no phone anywhere nearby. Second, pick one work task and give it 30 minutes of your complete, undivided attention. And I mean put your phone in another room. Third, take a 15-minute walk. No phone, no music, no podcasts. Just walk and look around. Just see what happens.
You know, when it comes right down to it, this struggle for our attention is really a struggle for our ability to think freely. In a world that literally profits from our distraction, choosing to build a life with more depth, more focus, and more quiet, well, that's not just self-help. It's an act of courage. It's a refusal to let our minds decay in silence.